Welcome to my podcast, guys. If you are here to work on your relationship with your child, then you are for sure in the right space because you will always have to work on your relationship with yourself. And this is what I offer here on my podcast. So if you listen to my podcast and hear things that are not obviously related to your son, listen on, because whatever you improve in your relationship with yourself will automatically improve all of your relationships, including with your son. So welcome and enjoy. Hey everyone, how are you all doing? I am doing so well, even though we have just recently gotten new restrictions and my oldest kids will be home for 2 weeks, maybe longer. They might extend it. My little kids are still considered to be in daycare, so they can still go. So that will be really good, actually, to have everyone kind of separate and do their own thing in the day, and then everyone gets back together at home. But of course, everyone else will have their kids home, all of them, and that will be a challenge. But we are going to power through. Everyone's getting vaccinations here in Canada finally, and we're going to get through this, right? Right. So I wanted to also remind you guys that I am celebrating a 1-year anniversary of this podcast with all of you guys. And I'm giving away a gift certificate to Lululemon, the most comfortable clothes ever. And they look so good. So I'm giving it away to one of you for sharing this podcast with others. After all, I'm doing this for you guys. And the more people listen to this podcast, the better, because they will get help. They will kind of have that change of perspective that they need to have a better relationship with their son, with their kids. And I think I'm sure it will affect all of the other relationships as well. And so, because I do want you guys to share it, if you could please give me a review on iTunes podcast, give me a review, and if you can screenshot it and share it on your social feed and tag me in it, then you will be automatically entered into this draw, and I will send you that gift card end of May when I hit my 52nd episode, and I can't wait to do that. I can't wait to give you that gift. And thank you guys for listening. I really appreciate it. And thank you everyone who has already shared the podcast. I appreciate it a lot, and it helps other people find it. So thank you so much for that. And today I want to talk about things, what starts fights for us, right? If my podcast is about stop fighting with your son, and you can apply to your daughter or your husband, but I'm focusing on your relationship with your son. Then we have to know, first of all, what starts them. And I made a list of all the beautiful thoughts that I have in my head that I know that have started or had the potential to start a fight. And so I wanted to share them with you here. And I know that a lot of these thoughts are also thoughts that my clients have that start fights for them. And so it all starts with our thought in our head, not from something outside of us. And when I did this list, I found 3 things that they all have in common. Basically, whenever we are not okay with ourselves, whenever we're not okay with our son, or whenever we are not okay with the situation outside of us, any one of those 3 things will cause some sort of an argument, some sort of friction, some maybe like a full blown up fight, maybe a tiny fight, maybe even just withdrawal, right, from and disconnection from your son. Right? I consider that a fight as well, because it doesn't feel good to you, and you're the one causing it. So here are the thoughts, and I will take each one and talk about it. Okay, so a big one I see it so often in so many of the people I talk to is that I have no time, or some sort of version of that. I don't have time for this, or I don't have the time, or there's no time for that, or something like that. So again, this is you not being okay with the situation, right? Like like, are you not okay having 24 hours a day, right? And it's not. I've talked about it in other episodes, but I want to just kind of break this one open. Is that the not having time is actually not true. We just, when we believe it, the feeling that it creates in us is causes a lot of fights, right? Because we feel rushed, we feel overwhelmed, we feel pressured, and so we try to hurry things along, right? Especially if we're getting somewhere or we're transitioning from a house to the car or somewhere going somewhere, right? And if we're thinking that and we're believing that, then it will create a feeling that will drive you to fight with whoever, right? Whoever's next to you, but usually if it's your kids, right? So that one for me, for sure, has contributed to that. So another one is, this is not okay. Or another version of it is, this is unacceptable. And whenever I have thought that, or I believe that, right? So, and I just want to put a little caveat to these thoughts that I'm giving you. Not everyone will have the same reaction to these thoughts. Not everyone will have the same feeling when they think these thoughts. And that is totally natural, and that's how our brains work, is because we believe them differently, right? So if you fully 100% believe that you have no time, like, how does that feel in your body? You know, it might feel like hopeless. It might feel like pressured, rushed, overwhelmed. For me, it will feel rushed and pressured, right? For some other people who are believe that they have some time, but they don't have enough time, they might feel less pressured or less overwhelmed, right? So I want you to take this and always, and kind of knowing that this is only specific to me, and a lot of us may share the same thought and feeling combination, but some of you might have that thought but react to it differently. You might have a different feeling to it. And so what I want you to take away from this is, our job is, okay, not our job, but this is an opportunity for us to study what are our triggers. And they're not triggers outside of us, they're triggers inside. What thoughts that we have that trigger us to fight. And I've done that for myself to get this list. And as you keep listening to me, make notes, right? You will always kind of think, how does this apply to me, right? And just kind of notice it. What is it for you, so that you remember in the future, when I think like I have no time, I react in this way, I feel this way. And this is your opportunity to notice that thought in the moment. And by noticing it, you will have a natural chance to pause in the middle of that and not react to it externally, right? You might still think, I have no time, and still feel overwhelmed and pressured, but not take that out onto your children. And this is where all of your power lies, is to own that your feeling of overwhelm or pressure is coming from your own thought, your brain, and not from something outside of you, right? And then you will be able to not react to it, to pause, to take ownership. Okay, it's totally fine that I'm feeling this way. I'm only feeling this way because I think this, right? So that's why I'm kind of giving you these examples to show you how this goes, how this process goes of studying your own thoughts. So another one, so for me, this is unacceptable. Feels true. I feel very strongly about it in some cases, but the truth is, only reason why I'm saying that is because it's happening. So when the reality doesn't match my expectation of how it should be, I am very pissed off. I'm very angry. I'm very frustrated, annoyed. And if I don't take the time to own that it's only coming from my thoughts, then I for sure will lose my shit. I will be angry, and I will try to change the outside. I will try to change the kid's behavior. I will try to, I will try my best to change the external circumstance so that I don't feel so pissed off. But this is unacceptable is a combination of words that is my trigger. And I don't have to think it, right? And so what I chose to think instead is, oh, I wonder why, like it depends on the situation, but I thought, oh, I wonder why he's saying or doing this, right? Because I'm not going to go from this is unacceptable to I'm totally happy with this. I'm going to find the next step that feels more comfortable to me, that connects me to my son, not makes me fight with him. And that is curiosity. I'm like, ooh, I see that it's unacceptable to me now, and I wonder what would make him do this or say that. And so this thought brings me closer to my son. It makes me ask him questions from a non-judgmental place to really understand what's going on for him to have done this or to have said this. And it prevents the fight, right? If I notice thinking this is unacceptable, and then I switch to, oh, I wonder why he's doing that, then I can access my loving part of me where I want to connect with him and I want to make our relationship better. And I'm using the situation to do so, right? So what that thought will be for you will have to be discovered. You can borrow my thoughts always, anytime, but if it doesn't work for you, you can play around looking for thoughts that will work for you, right? Sometimes if you're like in the place of complete denial, like I don't want this to happen, this should not be happening, like feel very strongly about it. And the next step for us to feel better and connect sometimes is this is unacceptable and it's okay. So you first have to make peace with the fact that you're not accepting it, right? To then work further to connect with your child. So again, this is the work that I've done for myself. You're welcome to borrow these thoughts and notice how the feelings change, right? From this is unacceptable, I feel frustrated, or I feel completely, I feel so determined to fight for this, right? I want to fight. I'm like, no, this is unacceptable. This must change immediately. And I'm like fight or flight. And then if I switch to, I wonder why he's doing that, that gives me a feeling of curiosity, right? And from that place, I'm a better parent, and I feel like I'm a better mom because I am taking care of myself and my babies, right? So another one that I came up with for me recently was, don't give me this attitude. Again, the same thing here. I'm like, I don't like your attitude. This is not okay. Don't do this. But this thought only makes me want to battle him. Makes me want to, like, I don't care what's going on for him. Don't do this, right? And that only creates more fighting. That does not create more understanding on my part about what's going on for him. And that doesn't get me what I want, which is no fighting, which is connection and love and peace at home. And so because it doesn't get me there and it gets me more fighting, then I think, okay, again, I wonder why. I could go to the curiosity. I wonder what's going on for him that he's giving me this attitude, right? Let's find out. And then once I find out, I'm like, oh, I totally understand now, is because of this. And it doesn't actually mean that he's giving me attitude. It's that he's just going through something, right? So I separate myself from him and what's going on for him. And it doesn't mean anything about me, okay? Another thought that I heard someone say was horrid behavior. Now, horrid behavior, right, is a thought that once someone thinks it is a very negative judgment of your child. Now, whenever we judge someone harshly, we don't feel good, right? When we don't feel good, how are we going to show up to that person? It's probably not in a loving, supporting, connecting way, and that's how we want to be with our children, right? So I want you to notice that so often that we judge our children so harshly, but we don't realize that we're doing that because we think we're just stating the facts, right? Like, oh, that was a terrible behavior, or you behaved poorly. But that, in fact, like if you were to say that about another human being or another adult, and you were to tell them that, they would say, why are you judging me so much? Like, mind your own business. That's not your place to tell me how I'm behaving, right? But somehow we make it okay to judge our kids like that. And partly, right, because we are their parents, and we're supposed to guide them and support them and teach them. But when we bring in these judgments, then we don't allow ourselves to parent from our highest self, right? We are completely shut down from understanding and connecting with our kids when we are judging them harshly. So horrid behavior is just a judgment that will cause you to fight, right? When I think of, like, if I was believing that my kids have horrid behavior, another, like, the next step to get away from that thought would be, like, for me, that kind of puts it into neutral, is kids will be kids, right? Like, they will be doing all this stuff, but that's what kids do, and it's totally fine. So that puts me into the acceptance. Kind of like, yeah, it's horrid behavior, but they should be doing that anyway, and it's totally fine, right? That way I'm not, like, thinking they should be behaving well, right? So there's another one that I wrote down is, like, I have PMS, right? So this one I think might come up for us as women, as moms, in many different ways. So, for example, for me, right, if I'm thinking, for me, when I think I have PMS, sometimes I'm not at peace with it, and I'm like, damn it, I shouldn't be having PMS. I shouldn't be like so frustrated. And so when I'm not at peace with myself, then watch out, right? I'm going to fight whoever comes to me next, and my kids are always next to me. So sometimes these thoughts, they don't even have to do anything with your child for you to feel the feeling that drives you to fight or argue with someone, right? So, like, I have the PMS and I shouldn't is the thought. And the thought that I go to pause and not fight with my kid is, this is the 50-50 of life. Call it what you will, PMS or not PMS, this is the 50-50. And the 50% amazing is amazing, and this is the not amazing part, which is 50%. And I can either be frustrated about it, or I can notice it and try to make peace with it, right? Or be at peace with it. And then I am a lot more open to connecting with my child, or at least not fighting with them, right? So the other one that came up for me a lot, and I'm sure some of you had that, is I can't handle it. The truth is, you can handle it, right? Because you are handling it. How well you're handling it is another thing, right? And we're not trying for perfect. The actual words, I can't handle it, will cause you to feel a certain way. For me, when I think I can't handle it, I feel very frustrated, and I try to release that feeling somehow. If I'm not aware that I'm thinking it, then I will for sure release it somehow by yelling or fighting or arguing or whatever, right? And usually it's not in a way that I'm proud of, right? So because I'm aware that I have this thought come up sometimes, I then notice it, and then I remind myself, hey, you can totally handle this. Actually, it's not the end of the world. Like, the worst thing that can happen is, like, there's water everywhere and there's a mess, right? Like, it's totally fine. Like, I'm just thinking about bath time. But, right, if it's too loud or too crazy or too chaotic, like, I have 4 boys, right? It comes up often. But the truth is, I am handling it, and I can handle it. So that thought worked for me as, like, a helper thought. What will work for you, you'll have to play around with it. But the truth is, you are actually already are handling it. So when your brain's lying to you and says, I can't handle it, then it's not true, right? So another one I've seen a lot of people do is, I have to do everything. Well, that is a loaded one. It can cause a lot of resentment towards your husband. It can cause you to feel super victim-y and self-pity and overeat and overshop and over Netflix and just a lot of overing. But when you are feeling sorry for yourself, how are you going to show up for your kid? And for me, when I feel sorry for myself, I'm not my best self for sure. I am blaming them, blaming my husband. I am blaming everyone but me, trying to feel better. But the truth that I always ask, like, what is the actual truth here? Because I am saying that I don't have to do everything, but I'm not doing everything, right? Even in cases where your husband does like very little, I'm sure you can find that you are not doing everything, and you don't have to. And that's the thought. The truth is actually you don't have to do one damn thing. And this is the work that I have to do with my clients a lot, is to remind them that they don't actually have to parent their children. It's actually an option, a choice that they are making. They just kind of forgot that they're making that choice because they told themselves so many times that they have to do it all, right? And so when I tell them, and we really dig down deep to really understand that, oh, you do have a choice. You can just leave. Someone else will take care of them. The government, the relatives, whoever, right? And then when they really sinks in, then they realize that they actually want to make that choice, that they do make that choice. They want to be there, but they don't have to. Now, that is the most freeing thing, is that they don't have to. And so that's like a big belief. When it's practiced a lot, I have to do everything. It kind of creeps into your life, and you don't even realize that you believe that until you, I tell you that you have a choice, and you're like, no, I don't have a choice. You're like, what are you talking about? If I don't do it all, who's going to do it? And I'm going to tell you, no, someone else will do it. You're like, no, but I want to do it, right? So notice how, if you're believing that, notice that if you're thinking like you're the only person to do that, then that's probably you. And give yourself the freedom of choice. You don't have to do it. And if you have trouble doing that, this is what I'm really good at, is coaching you through these things that we think are true for our life, but are not causing a good feeling in us. And when they're not making us feel good, like we can't be a great parent, or we can't show up to our kid in a really good way. So I can really help you, walk you through and talk you through all of these beliefs and question and kind of thoughts that you can't question yourself, right? So let me see this. This is a good one. This is taking too long. Gosh, this happens so much, right? With little kids, getting their shoes on, socks, getting dressed, eating, walking, talking, anything, right? Buckling up, anything. Again, when you think this is taking too long, you're like basically saying, I'm not okay with this reality. I would like this reality to change, but the reality is not changing, which is why I have a job, right? Which is why I'm talking to you about this here, because we can't change the reality. They're still going to do it in the time that they do it. So we can either think thoughts like this is taking too long and it shouldn't take this long, and feel frustrated and then snap or be cold with them or yell at them, right? Or like fight. But we're only going to be doing that because we're thinking this is taking too long and we're feeling stressed out. Or we can notice, hey, when they're putting on their shoes and I have this thought, this is taking too long, I feel frustrated. When I feel frustrated, I am more likely to snap at them and say something unkind. So what else could I think here, right? Well, my favorite go-to thought for that is I've got time, or I have lots of time, or I can wait, or I have all the time in the world, right? But of course, you have to believe these thoughts, right? If you don't believe them, they're not going to work for you. So what will work for you in this situation? The other one is, for me, I tell myself, well, if you don't want to wait, I tell myself, then do yourself. And so in some instances, I do. I just take the socks and put them on my twins because I don't want to wait, right? But with the shoes, I'm ready. I'm committed to stand there and wait as long as it takes for them to do it themselves, right? It's just a choice I'm making. And so I tell myself that. I said, I don't want to take the time to put on the socks, but I will take the time to wait for them to do it themselves. And the other one that is I use in this situation is that it's okay to be late, right? Which is another stressor that we have is we can't be late. Totally okay to be late. No one will die. You will only feel a certain feeling if you're late. That's it. Doesn't mean anything about you. It doesn't mean anything about you respecting other people's time unless you want to make it mean that. It doesn't have to mean anything except that you were there later than you should have been. That's all. I love that freedom. I should do an episode on that because I used to have a huge thing about being late. And now I freed myself from it and I feel so much lighter. I feel like I'm in a better space to parent and to be a friend when I don't have the whole military don't be late thing in my head. Okay. So another one that I wrote down that I've seen me and my friends and my clients go through is like this thought that they have, some sort of version of she's better than me. Comparing ourselves to others, and when we compare, we feel shitty, we feel terrible about ourselves. And if that's going on for you when you are with your son or with your daughter, you are not going to feel loving towards them. That's just my guess. I'm basing it, of course, on me. But if you feel terrible about yourself and are thinking that someone else is better or someone else has a better or some sort of version of they're better off than I am, that's going to cause frustration. And when I'm frustrated, I tend to fight, right? So I wrote that one down. Another thought I wrote down is, that's a good one. I don't know what to do with them. So I've had that thought often. I've kind of don't have it lately because I figured it out. But sometimes with these boys and all four of them and whatever, and winter, I've had this thought, I don't know what to do with them. And that caused me frustration because if they're in the house too long, it becomes so crazy that it's just too much, too loud, and they have so much energy, it doesn't work. So then I'm like, okay, I have to do something with them. I don't know what to do with them. And so then if I think that I feel stuck, when I feel stuck, I don't make a decision. When I don't make a decision, I feel frustrated and stuck. And so I take it out on them. I start yelling at them to go outside or stop fighting or stop yelling or stop, right? Like I start acting out how I'm feeling to them, onto them. And I don't want to do that. No, thank you. I've done that enough. It feels terrible. I feel like a terrible mom. And so I've done a lot of work to just make these decisions. And even they don't have to be amazing decisions. Just decide. And the thought that kind of gets me over the other thought is, this is what we're doing. I just make a decision. I'm like, okay, this is what we're doing. Socks and shoes, let's go. Let's go for a walk, or let's go for a bike ride, or hot tub, or whatever, right? This is what we're doing. But again, it goes from one thought to another thought. This is what I want you to take away from this, is that what are your trigger thoughts? Find them. Just one. Find one. Notice it. And then try to find a different one that you can go to, or even you don't even have to go to another one. If you just notice this first one, it will naturally pause your reaction and you will not fight. And if you do, which for sure a lot of us will do, some of us will do, still fight even if we notice it, because it just takes practice. Okay? It doesn't mean that once we notice it, we're never going to fight again. All that means is that we are getting better at noticing it and seeing, hey, this is just a thought, it makes me feel this way, and I want to fight. And in the beginning, for sure, you will still react to it and fight. But as you do this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, you will get better. And you won't have to react to it as much with each time. So the pause will become longer and longer between you noticing it and fighting it. And you will eventually just not even react to it, because you'll be so used to that thought and seeing it there that you will not believe it anymore. That's what will happen. You won't believe it anymore. So I have two more here that I wrote down, and then we'll be done. So I wrote down, eat your food. So I had a thing with food with my kids, right? That like sometimes we have an agenda that they should eat certain thing. And it's frustrating if they don't follow your agenda, right? So whatever thought you have about the food for them, what thought is that? Like what exact words do you think? Like, oh, they should eat this, or he should eat this much, or he should at least eat the veggies. Like, what thought is it specifically that causes you to feel frustrated? Or like, what other feeling does it cause you? Basically, like, what thought is it that makes you not be okay with the reality of what he's eating? Let's say he ate like 3 sausages and no potatoes and no veggies, and you have a thought about it, right? If your thought about it is like, this is not good for him, he should eat some veggies, then you're going to be upset because that expectation is not meeting it's not the same as reality, right? So here you have options, right? You can be frustrated, by the way, right? I have to tell you. You can always choose to still be frustrated, even if you know it's your thought causing it. This is actually very important note to make, is that we don't always want to be happy about what's going on, about ourselves, about the kids, or about the situation. There's going to be so many times where we will choose to be frustrated or annoyed or stressed out or pissed off because that makes sense. Like when one of my kids hits another kid, I don't want to be happy about that. I want to be a bit pissed off, like, right? It doesn't make sense for me to be happy about it. Although sometimes I have been completely not surprised. I was more like, yep, that's what happens when there's brothers and they hit each other, right? That was more like acceptance. Like, this is like the weather. Sun's shining, brothers are hitting each other, right? So again, don't judge yourself if you can't always get to be happy, because you don't always want to be happy about everything. This is not a human experience. Remember, it's 50-50. So you may want to choose to be frustrated that they don't eat their veggies, right? I just want you to know that you can do it intentionally and purposefully, that you're actually choosing to do so, right? I have a sister-in-law who I think is amazing at being so chill about what her kid eats, that I want to be like that so much. And I think that's how she is about herself as well. So I'm totally going for it. I'm thinking thoughts like, I don't care what they eat. Of course, I'm not fully there yet, but my intention is to be at peace. Like, I trust what they're doing. I trust that they will eat what they need, and I trust that they will make those choices, and I trust their bodies, right? This is a lot better than being frustrated that they didn't eat their veggies, right? So that's another option. And the last one is, why is he doing that? Here's a thought. Or for you, it could be, why is she doing that? Why is he doing that? I found out that when we have a question like that, why is he doing that? It tells us so much about what's going on in that person's head. And it probably something like this: I don't agree with what he's doing. He shouldn't be doing that. He should stop. Something along those lines. So whenever we ask someone, why are you doing that? It's because we have a judgment about what they're doing and we don't agree with them. And so when we have that judgment, we are going to feel, again, frustrated or angry or upset or any of those emotions. And how do you act towards your son when you don't agree with them? When you are upset that they're still doing what you think they should not be doing, right? Not good. You're not going to show up in your great supportive mothering way. Like, that's my guess, but that's just based on my own experience, right? So be onto yourself when you're like, oh, I'm just curious why he's doing that, right? Because I've done that. We're like, try to trick ourselves that we're totally fine, but like, why are you doing that? Like, I'm just curious, right? No, you're not just curious. You disagree with them completely. And you think they should stop, and you're asking them so that you can argue with them about it. I might have done that with my husband. And he totally called me out, and I'm like, what? I'm just asking why, right? He's like, no, you're not just asking why, you blah, 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 right? I'm like, oh, he's totally right. If I was totally fine with him doing it, that he was doing it, I would not be asking him, why are you doing that? Same thing with our kids. Same thing with my son, right? So that it will be your like alarm will ring. Oh, when you like first you will notice yourself asking that, why are you doing that? And then you'll be like, oh, right, I noticed that I asked that. Huh, is it true? Like, do I actually, yeah, I totally don't think they should do that, right? So then there comes that awareness piece. Now you're aware what's going on for you so that you can take charge of whether you can fight with them or not. Is this worth fighting over? Is this worth having a discussion over? What do I want to do here? How can I best support him here? Right? How do I want to show up as a mother here? And so that will be your options once you become aware of the thoughts you're thinking in your head. So remember, the 3 common things that will make you fight or will kind of cause you to be in a feeling that will drive you to fight. You not being okay with yourself in some sort of way. You not being okay with your son in a certain way, and like what they're doing, what they're saying, how they're being, anything. Or something else. You not being okay with the situation. That can also cause you to show up with your son in a non-loving way and fight and argue. So I hope this was helpful for you to kind of shine light on what causes fights so that you can start basically stop fighting, right? And I will do another episode and talk about ways to prevent these thoughts or to replace them with other thoughts, which I gave you some examples here, but I will do more of that in the future ones. So good luck, guys. This is the work of our lifetime to work on our thoughts and our feelings. And I think the rewards are priceless when we see how our relationships transform from studying our own brain, from noticing how we're feeling. And not only your relationship with your son will change and you will be more loving and supporting, I promise you all of your relationships will transform, because this skill you're learning applies to every single relationship, because it's all about your brain and your thoughts and your feelings. So if you need any help with it, I will be so honored to help you work on your brain so that you can show up as your best mom to your son and love them. All right. Well, have a great week, and I will talk to you next week. Bye.